Guys and dolls, Freedom Dad here. And yeah, just want to catch up on a few things and, you know, reply or sort of analyze, break down, and bring some truths to some, I wouldn't say lies. I am going to say it. I am going to say it. And it's not lies like, what's the word? Deviant lies. It's more just reporter lies, you know what I mean? Sensationalizing a story to make it sound better so people pay attention and hit the old like button, you know what I mean? So let's have a wee look at what we've got today.
Yes, well, we have seen, and we know that we're having this on both sides of the border, and you and I have spoke about it before, is this increase, and they don't like being called it, but that's what they are, is the far right. And
correct. We don't like being called it because we're not far right. There's a big distinction between the far right and us. I actually got Tony Martin on, the leader of the National Front, to actually find out what the far right was all about because we were sick being called it. But, it's what sells papers. It's what you're happy saying. And, you say it because we don't like hearing it. We get it. Okay, that's no problem. But, everybody's getting sick of hearing it, to be honest with you. Eventually people will just be going, really? Again?
these anti-immigration protesters who have been taken to the streets, and they're first of all claiming that they are there because they are protecting our women and children, and even that irks me because it's the "are" and that, as if that we are passive little creatures and that they have ownership of us, and where would we be without these men wrapped in flags out protecting us all from this invisible threat of unknown migrant hordes who are wandering the streets. So
there's a lot in that wee clip I could break down, but we're just going to concentrate on the most important. The invisible threat. Tell that to the hundreds of thousands of children who have been raped by Pakistani grooming gangs in England. Tell that to the hundreds of thousands of children who are being abused by men coming into this country from other countries, being allowed by the government. It's in England right now and in Scotland. Tell that to the victims in Falkirk. A girl went through a 10-hour ordeal, trailed out of a park from a man from a migrant hotel. This is the evidence that we have. It's not an invisible threat. It's a deadly threat coming to our shores.
In Northern Ireland, I'm just fed up with them, but in Northern Ireland recently, we've had these sort of vigilante groups have started springing up who are patrolling the streets, and they are monetizing this by using platforms like YouTube and TikTok to post their videos, and their videos get tens of thousands of views because it has this sort of global interest, especially on TikTok. You have these fringe figures who are being retweeted by Elon Musk to his millions of followers.
Yeah, people make money from YouTube and TikTok. There's no two ways about it. But they don't make that much money. There's no patriots in Northern Ireland making any serious money. You need to be like Paul Thorpe, Mayor Tussey, and I don't make any money. I've got buy me a coffee. So you buy me a coffee, you get an email every time I go live. It's a good wee deal, and I could monetize. I've got I'm hitting 11th, coming up to 12,000 on TikTok. I could be making money from that. I could be doing lives and getting gifts. I don't. I could be monetizing my YouTube channel, getting thousands of views every time. And like you say, we are getting thousands of views. And the reason why we're getting thousands of views, Alison, is because we're telling the truth. Why do you think a bank robber, a man with a past, that interviews other men with a past, which I will get onto whenever you bring this up again, gets so many views, gets so much love? You've got to ask yourself some serious questions. Stop attacking us. We are not the problem. We are trying to highlight the problem so we can step back, so I can go on holiday and do holiday videos.
It's getting them interest, and it's also monetized because, as you know, they're paid for views of these things, and so they're turning it into a business and concerned and want to be, some sort of neighborhood watch for their local community. But that's not what these people are. We're not talking about someone, a neighbor keeping an eye on your house while you're on holiday for you. We're talking about people who are thuggish, who have their hoods up and their faces covered, and they're videoing themselves stopping anybody who looks like a migrant. It doesn't matter who they are, what the work is. They could be, the person who's doing the delivery driving to a consultant in the Royal, and they're stopping them and asking them who they are. At one stage, we're asking them for their papers. It was like Nazi, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is asking people for their papers. Now, let me make this clear. It's only happened once. And the reason why, because there was an incident in East Belfast in the Ormo Park, and a guy matching that description was caught in the Ormo Park that night, right, with these guys, and they thought, like anybody would have thought it was the same guy dressed exactly the same, and they just wanted to get his ID so they could pass it on to the police in case something had happened during the day that nobody knew about. That's it. That was on their mind. That had happened. That's real life. You know, a child was chased. A father chased the perpetrator. Everybody in East Belfast knows about this. That night, a guy matching that description was seen in the Ormo Park where this happened, and they just wanted to get his name. That's all that was. Nothing about being Nazis. That's ridiculous. Going down this road, and it's quite damning. This is the problem. This is what happened with Charlie Kirk. The media, the way that left-wing media treated the right-wing commentators, bred hatred, and you're putting people in danger by calling us Nazis. And anybody who's concerned about what's going on in England and Ireland and concerned it's coming to here, you know, it's the wrong words to use at this time. It's low, it's cheap, and you're better than that.
Then they're calling them undocumented by asking to see their passports. And these, people who are standing like a terrified are handing them over passports to view, and they're taking pictures of them. They followed one guy home to his house and demanded to know how many people were living in this house. And did he have a job, or was he claiming benefits?
So, again, it's exaggerated, it's sensationalized. One man gets stopped and you're running about, you're like as if everybody's being stopped. Where are you going? Show me your ID. That's not happening. That's never happened. You know, this is misinformation. And the other thing is, like, you know, the the one where the guy got followed home was because he was caught in the same place. uh, he was in the same place. Women went up and asked him what he was doing, and he got cheeky to the women. Right? No respect, totally disrespect. Whether it's right or wrong, you know what I mean. That's not for anybody else to decide, but the parents on the street where these men are hanging about, and that's the way it is. This is the fear on the streets of what we see in other countries, and you know, yes, it's not everybody agrees, but at the end of the day, there's no laws being broken. That's for sure. There's no laws being broken. And whether you like it or not, you know, that's what's happening. We are going to protect our children. The men and women in this country will protect our children. We will do what we need to do, whether you like it or not, But don't sensationalize it. Keep it real, you know. Keep it factual. And if you don't know the facts because you're not on the streets, then don't say nothing, because you're just turning the community against you, because the community know the truth, The East Belfast community know the truth.
But he is now wandering around with a camera on a selfie stick, calling himself a citizen journalist. When we had those riots in Ballymena during the summer, and we know that they started because there was an allegation of sexual assault against a child, against a 13-year-old child. 2 14-year-old boys been charged in connection with that. But the result of that was that there was protest on the street, initially peaceful, which resulted in riots and people being burned from their homes. The fire service having to go in and take pregnant women and everything out of burning houses. He was in the middle of that, and as part of that, he was interviewing people, which very easily Jigsaw identified who the complainant was in that case. And this is something that irks me no end.
Sinclair was in the middle of that.
Sinclair was running around with his camera and a selfie stick, interviewing people, doing as usual, what's going on here, and everything is terrible. It's all the fault of anyone who looks slightly different and has brown skin.
Okay, that's really, really fucking out there. Like, you know what I mean? I've got nothing against brown skin. If you don't watch my videos, obviously, I don't expect you to, but everybody else does, you know what I mean? And everybody else knows me. They know who I am and what I'm about. And there's not a racist bone in my body. It's not about brown skin, you know? My issue is with Islam. That's my main concern. And the terror that they bring to our shores. That's the bottom line. It. I'm not here to call out any foreigners. You know what I mean? I'm here to protect my country and my daughter, her future, from what I know is coming, from what I see in England and Ireland. You know, and it's got absolutely nothing about brown skin, and that's very unfair to bring that racist card into it. When in the Ballymena rats, 2.5 hours of a live stream, not once did I mention anything about skin color. So it's unprecedented, you know what I mean? It's for me to hear that kind of thing, but it's starting to become common from the likes of yourselves and the media. And obviously, it's to turn people against me. Why would you follow a racist? But the thing is, there's absolutely no evidence. Just like Tommy Robinson, there's absolutely no evidence of me being a racist. And until you get that evidence, then you shouldn't really be doing that, because that's not morally right. If you call yourself a crime correspondent, report the facts. Don't make it up to make you sound good, to sensationalize what you're trying to do with your platforms and with your followers. Keep it real. That's what we're all trying to do, and that's why people follow me before they follow you, because they know they're getting the truth from Freedom Dad.
And as part of that, he did something which I'll not go into details because I don't want people going and finding it, but clearly identified who the child complainant was in that case. As journalists, we very rightly have to follow very strict rules in terms of protecting the rights of, first of all, a complainant in a sex offence case has anonymity for life. Whether it ends in a conviction or not, they've anonymity for life and only they can waive it.
That is a very valid point. It's probably the closest you've come to factual and truthfulness in this whole interview so far, to be honest with you. But, I ain't going to change and I ain't going to stop. If a family comes to me and asks me to bring their story online, and I can do that without doing any damage to the trial, then I will do that. If a family want to warn the rest of the area that there's problems, then I will do that. See, this isn't the time to be frittering about with rules and regulations that the mainstream media have set up and the establishment have set up to silence people. It's time to warn people what's coming. Too many families are being silenced and threatened, you know. So I will deal with that. The families will deal with that. I'm not breaking the law. You do your thing, I'll do my thing.
A child, both victim, whether they're a defendant, a victim, or, regardless of what their inclusion is, the criminal justice system has anonymity until they're 18, and only they can waive it. Their family member can't waive it. Their aunt, their mother, their sister, their next door neighbour cannot waive that child's right to anonymity. Their guardian can't waive it. Only the child can. There was actually a court case in relation to this because a mother wanted to waive her 8-year-old's anonymity to name a man who had sexually assaulted the child, and a judge ruled, no, you don't have the right to do that, whether it's your child or not. That child, when that child is 18, will make a decision whether they want people to know that they were a victim of a sex crime or not. So that annoys me, because you want to set yourself up and call yourself a citizen journalist, at least learn the basics in terms of what it means to protect the people you're claiming to be reporting on. But it's not just that. This is a group of people who I have yet to find one of them who doesn't have some sort of shady past. And I don't.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's the men with the shady past that are standing up right now, putting their head above the parapet, getting abused by mainstream media, being lied about, being put my life in danger by claiming I'm the relative? Not you, but other news reporters have put my life in danger by saying I'm a relative of the Shangle Butchers as I'm going up to Dublin to deliver speeches to Irishmen for the first time, an ex-lawless prisoner, going to Dublin and being welcomed. Do you not realise what's going on? Can you not see with your own eyes? I know you're going to bring that up in a minute about me going to Dublin, but you're so What I'm not great with big words, you know. Unfortunately, I don't have the education that you have, but that doesn't seem to sway my followers. It doesn't seem to sway my community. You know, the bottom line is it's the shady men, because the shady men have been to prison. We know the law, and we're prepared to go to prison for our children. We're prepared to die for our children, and that's what shady men are all about. And there's going to be more shady men coming up as we go forward. So be ready for it. Unfortunately, we're not getting any angels sent down from heaven, and we're not getting the men from the churches out right now. But it won't be long till every man's on the street.
Mean the dozens of people who are walking the street, but the ringleaders of it, the people who are putting themselves forward, who are making the videos. So this week there was a man who appeared in court, and outside the court, standing outside Laganside, is Freedom Dad interviewing two other people who had been in the court with him.
Just going to cut you right there, because guys, go and watch the full video. I have cut bits out. You'll understand why I cut bits out when you watch the video. But and all I'm going to say about it, because I can't say a lot about it, it happened a long time ago, and If there was anything wrong about it in the eyes of the community, something would have been done about it. This is Northern Ireland. This is Belfast. You can't get away with doing stuff like that, okay? So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I've got to be very, very careful. The other one is Glen Kane. She's going on about Glen Kane got done for manslaughter at an intersection between the Shankill and the Falls back in the day when the riots were horrendous. Groups of men would come out and fight each other. And it was a flip of a coin who would have lost their lives, a Catholic or a Protestant. And it happened to be a Catholic. And Glenn done his time. He was part of a gang of men with fighting another gang of men. It wasn't like a gang of men on one or whatever. It was gangs of men fighting at an intersection. Okay? He's done his time. Right? What more do you want? So these men to sit in their rooms in the dark to suit you, is that what happens to men like me? Is you're not happy that men like me can do something wrong in life, go to prison and come out and try and do something right? Not every man that does bad things are bad men. We are brought up in a very serious situation in Northern Ireland in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. We lived it. We breathed it. We watched our friends die. We watched our friends go to prison, and we went to prison. And if we hadn't been born anywhere else apart from Northern Ireland, most of us would never have seen the inside of a prison. So that alone that you're bringing up, it's the past. We're not interested in the past. Only you are. We're interested in the future. We're not here for the here and now. We're here for tomorrow and the years and years that come. We will protect our country. We will protect our children. And unfortunately, just because you don't like the man that's doing it, doesn't mean the community don't.
Horde with the rest of those people. The Freedom Dad, the guy Mark Sinclair, is constantly down in Dublin. He's outside the GPO quite regularly, giving speeches and claiming that there's unity north and south between these people. And the fact is, the Egypts with the tricolour standing beside him realise that if all of the migrants left tomorrow, they would simply turn their hatred back onto them again.
Again, pretty shit thing to say. Calling the men and women, the fathers and mothers, the grannies and granddads, and the aunties and uncles of Ireland who come out to protest against the mass immigration that's going on in our country, Egypts, that's low. Okay, that's for starters. You're above that. You're above that. The fact that you won't acknowledge that an ex-loyalist prisoner is being welcomed by Republicans in Ireland for the first time ever in our history, it's totally lost on you. You'd rather look at the most negative things to bring us down rather than some of the positive things that we're doing for the great of the island of Ireland. Now, I always say there's no religion in patriotism. Nobody else is doing what I'm doing. I'm bringing Protestants and Catholics together. It's in my bio in my YouTube channel. It's over a year old. I wrote it over a year ago and I've stuck to my course. And it's a very difficult course to take in Northern Ireland, as you can imagine, bringing Protestants and Catholics together. But that's totally lost on you, you know. And again, this is the establishment rhetoric, and you can do better than that. If you decided to be more open and honest about what's truly going on, what's going on in England, what's going on in Dublin, and how our borders are open, and how much work some of us are doing, whether you like it or not, that we've got shady past. You've got to recognise that we're a step ahead of everybody else. We're doing things that's never been done in Northern Ireland before, and to turn around and say that we would go back to fighting after we sort out immigration, you're far from it there. We've already made agreements. If we help each other, we'll never fight each other. We're stronger together. We know that now. We've been divided so we could be conquered. We've been divided so we've been easier to control. But we go on about the establishment at the end here. So we'll get to that bit as well.
They were their target of their hatred, and hate is transferable. They've now found a new target.
Yes.
Always have to you have to have someone to look down on at all times, otherwise you might have to confront the fact that your own life is so shit. So
Okay, now we're starting to get like a bit personal and all that. Like you see a bit of hatred coming out, and that's above you. Life is shit. Life is hard. Life is really difficult for people. But personally, I'm a happy man. I wake up every day happy because I've had so many downs in my life. You know, um, I've been in lows that you can even imagine. So I'm now a father at 55 to a beautiful daughter, absolutely amazing daughter, who's doing absolutely fantastic. Everybody around me is happy and healthy, and we don't even have a penny. We just have love and understanding of who we all are. And, yet people do have shitty lives because it is a hard life. Mental health and everything that's running through our communities. It's not easy for some people, but to call it out like that and make it sound as if that's the only reason people are doing this, that is low again. And it's no doing you any favors, if I'm honest. Um, but yeah, it is what it is.
At all times, we're looking for someone we believe to be lesser. That's what they're doing, so they can look down on them. Right now, it's migrants. So we have an awful video, and you can see it online, of them trying to drag a guy from a quarter delivery driver from his car outside of a McDonald's in East Belfast. They're bouncing the bonnet, they're pulling the doors open, and trying to get him out. And I have no idea what they intended to do with him.
Okay, so I'm just going to cut in here, clear this wee bit up, because obviously you're not on the ground again. So you're just reporting on what other mainstream media are reporting. But I was there, know exactly what happened. I was at the front of the car whenever they all run over. So I've seen first-hand accounts. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. They were trying to get the keys out of the car, right or wrong. They weren't trying to drag anybody to the car. They tried to reach in to get the keys out so he couldn't fucking run over anybody. That was the feeling whenever he was reversing. That's what that was. Nobody was getting dragged out of the car. It wasn't a mob that was going to lynch anybody like's being reported. And like it's to us that know everything, everybody on the streets and all our areas, Shankill, southwest, east, north down. Everybody knows this. It's the talk of the steamy, how stuff's coming out in the media compared to reality of real life. And, you know, this is another problem with mainstream media. You aren't on the ground, so you're making it up as you go along. Um, it's sad, but that their reporting is misinformation. It's exaggeration of what happened. And it's not even funny. These guys are jumping about with no um, tax or MOT. What would happen to any of us? You see, it's people are angry because they're getting away with so much. That's all it is. We don't get an inch given to us. We get caught with MOT or tax. We're pulled over. We lose our cars, especially somebody like me. So it's not fair that one rule for these guys, the police totally turn a blind eye to them in many ways, not just tax and insurance, many ways, and you know that because of the diversity and afraid to offend Islam and all the rest of it, like we've seen what happened to the grooming gangs, of how the police were offish, how the social worker were offish. One day they will be held accountable. One day there will be charges brought to whoever was responsible that would let that happen in England, you know. And, at the end of the day, this is the problem we have with mainstream media. You just aren't getting the truth because you aren't on the ground. The community don't trust you. They've lost faith in you. So you've got to make it up as you go along. But it makes you look even worse. And more of the public lose faith in you. And the citizen journalists are now here to clear everything up and make sure people do know the facts. And that's what you don't like. You don't like me because I'm bringing the truth and the facts. And you can watch my videos. Yes, sometimes I get it wrong. I'm not perfect. I'm a young YouTuber. I'm a young citizen journalist. I'm learning as I go, and I know nobody's perfect. But I do my very best. But the one thing I do, I make sure I do, I check my facts and I bring the truth. Because people will stop listening to me if I just laissez bullshit all the time and make stuff up or just copy what other people are saying in other newspapers. So that's a problem that needs to be sorted. They get the faith back of the community for the likes of yourself. But I can't see that ever happening if you keep going like this against people like me.
And I was like, well, now that sheds a whole new light on the attempted lynching. I didn't realize that he had no tax. Had I known that, well, then it's perfectly understandable why we're going to drag him out of a car and beat him to death. Had he had baldy tires, I'm not sure what the penalty would have been for that. Trying to justify their actions by saying that car had no tax disc. This is hard, ridiculous that this whole thing has.
Yeah, so sort of going around in circles now, you know what I mean? I know to you it might feel a wee bit ironic or whatever, but to us citizens who go through life having to toe the line as far as the law is concerned, as far as insuring, taxing, and MOT in your car, you know, it's just too much for people to take right now under the circumstances that they're also getting away with horrific crimes in England because of a fear of upsetting foreigners, and that's clear. We've got evidence of that, we have clear evidence of that. We've got social workers that went to weddings of a 15-year-old child to a Muslim. Evidence of that. I could tell you stuff that would curl your toes. Evidence, receipts of what happened in England and still happening in England, even to the Sikh community. You don't have to go far to research this stuff.
Probably vulnerable and had mental health issues, people who had maybe some kind of previous past trauma because of something else.
So I'm going to assume you're talking about me. Past trauma, losing my mum, being abused in children's homes, and then losing my wife after 17 years to COVID. Yes, it does affect your mental health. But the thing is, the brain is an amazing thing. And with the right input and the right understanding of the world, you can come back from it. And yes, maybe I do use my platform to deal with my mental health and to cope as a coping mechanism. Um, you know, that's the life we live in. It isn't easy. Um, Kids from the working class areas that ended up in children's homes didn't ever fare too well back in the day. You know what I mean? And it's not about sort of, maybe it's a bit of dealing with my mental health. Okay, fair enough. But it's also letting people know that it's okay to talk about stuff. It's okay to talk about abuse. It's okay about talking about trying to commit suicide. It's okay because you need to talk about it. You know what I mean? And that was a big part of my platform as well. And it's all interlaced because of the childhood abuse on our children by foreigners, because it's the same kids. It's the working class kids. It's kids from children's homes. You know that, don't you? You can do your research. If you don't know that, why are you not talking about it? If you do know it, why are you not talking about it? If you don't know it, do your research. It's our children in Great Britain, the most vulnerable children in our societies, that are falling prey to these monsters.
We're at home 24 hours a day, and therefore we're constantly online and on the internet. And then we also have seen a rise in this type of rhetoric in America. And a lot of these people, these so called defenders of women and children, are just mimicking and aping what they hear from those American sort of far right websites, podcasters, all of that.
I bet you're wrong. Sitting in the house watching videos, you know, I sat in the house and done research. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've only just come online with my face for the last year, over a last year. But I've been working with fake accounts because they kept getting taken down and getting barred because the silencing that we've had to try and bring awareness of what's going on in England. But I've been doing this for 20 years, not just because my wife died. My wife was an Advent supporter of Tommy Robinson, you know, and together we followed him, followed the persecution of him. And then when my wife died, I carried on doing just what we were doing: activism, bringing awareness, awakening people, trying to prove that Tommy Robinson wasn't a racist, doing videos, putting posts out, counteracting the far left. That's what patriots do. That's activism. And it's not about, that it wasn't just because I lost my wife and I was like in a really bad place for 3 years and I had nothing better to do than watch YouTube. You're wrong there. But I spent that time to research and get my facts right so I could do this. Remember, my girlfriend was pregnant for 9 months, and now my baby's in this world for 10 months. It's a long, long time. That's when I came online. That's when I started to do a wee bit more.
Um, then they think they can copy that, and they think that they can, even though obviously you have people like sort of Candace Owens and Joe Rogan and those sort of people who made millions.
Don't copy nobody. The Americans have the similar problem to us with what the Bidens have done to America, exactly what Starmer's doing to Britain, and what Macron's done to France, and what Merkel done to Germany. We learn from them. We don't copy them, because what they've done hasn't worked. What we are going to do is going to work.
It is, I've always said in relation to this, the biggest sort of, I suppose, Jedi mind trick that governments have played with all of us is convincing. And this is the whole point about Elon Musk. The man is a billionaire. The fact that someone in East Belfast thinks Elon Musk gives a shit about them or the shit about their life. But the fact is that we have really sort of poor working class. You can argue if they working class because none of them have a job, but really poor white people living in probably substandard housing, very little education, very little prospects, blaming really poor brown migrants who are.
Again, a lot of offensive words, a lot of abuse as far as I'm concerned to my friends and people that live in my areas. Yeah, we're not very educated, but we're pulling on more views than you. We've got more support than you. So it's not about education, it's about what comes out of your mouth, how genuine you are, how truthful you are, and how you use your words. And unfortunately for you, my people don't care that I can't speak proper and posh, And, the bottom line is, as far as what you're saying there, we're doing our best with the very little resources we have, and we don't have the support of the Belfast Telegraph or the Sunday World or the Life or the Irish News. We're not making the big bucks like you. So again, it's beneath you to go down this road and belittle us. We know who we are. We know where we come from. We know our faults. And just on that point as well, stop using the brown word. We aren't racist. It's not about brown people. If you're really missing the point, we've had immigration in this country for a very long time. I had a black doctor when my mum was going through cancer. Never batted an eyelid. I've got black friends. I've got African black men from Nigeria who are my best friends. Been here a long time, integrated in the society. Their kids play football with our kids. They drink in the pub with us. There's no difference between them and us. We do not see any difference in the colour of their skin. So stop saying brown. I know you're trying to push the racist rhetoric, and the word brown emphasizes your point of trying to call us racist because that's what you want the people to believe. But if, more and more people can see what you're doing, this isn't about the colour of skin, Alison. Stop it.
They would just step back and realize that this is a class war, and that the problem is really with the elites and the 1% and the people who are now controlling the world, and not with the guy living next door to them who's going out and delivering food, like fast food for minimum wage. Do you know what I mean? And all of this, and I sit in the courts day and daily, and I have yet to see any evidence that there are hordes of foreign rapists running around dragging women off the street.
Yes, we know who's responsible. We know about the deep state. We know we've been compromised. We know it started with Tony Blair. We know about the Fabian Society. We know everything like that. What do we do about it? Remember, we're guys with shady past. We're getting attacked by the media constantly. You're calling us far right, fascist, and fascist. How are we meant to do anything against these kind of people? But yes, we do know. We know who's responsible. But the men you're talking about doing the fast food deliveries are in this country illegally. They're in this country by a government that's been compromised. So therefore, they do not deserve the citizenship or the passports that they have. Okay, so they're illegal. If you have a traitorous government bringing these people in, they're in here illegally, and they will be gone. We will get rid of them. Whether we make life uncomfortable, our next government that the people will bring in, we will either make their life uncomfortable so they don't want to be here, or we will deport them. There's no two ways about it. They've come in illegally. They come in without documents. What part of that do you not understand? And the reason why you're not seeing loads of foreigners coming through the courts right now is because of the work people are doing, because of the work the men in Bangor are doing. 2.5 years standing outside the Marina Court Hotel, 2.5 years every Friday. That's prevention. Prevention. We are preventing these men coming onto our streets. We are preventing them hanging about our courts, our playgrounds. Okay? This is why you're not seeing it. Okay? There's no other reason to it. Why do you honestly think that they're gonna rape and pillage in England and Ireland, but yet not do it in Northern Ireland? They're not doing it in Northern Ireland because we're here.
Do have a real problem with violence against women and girls in Northern Ireland, and the problem is caused by people who are homegrown, violent thugs and rapists and domestic abusers. And we know that the Guardian, I think, did an FOI in terms of the people who were involved in the riots in England last summer, and included figures then that were published on the Detail website. And I think something like 48% of the people who were involved in those far right riots had been previously known to the police for domestic abuse and had been reported for domestic violence or domestic abuse in the past. And when you take out the number of children who were actually arrested in those riots, that number is probably much, much higher. Because while those children may well have been victims of domestic abuse or be in households with domestic abuse, they're clearly not having been reported for it. So therefore, if you take the percentage, it's probably much higher than that. These are not people who you would leave babysitting your child. These are not people you would want anywhere near your daughters. And these are not defending any of us. None of us need defended by these people. In many occasions, we probably need defended from them.
From them, indeed.
This is what you're good at. Deflection. Deflection from the points and the issues that truly matter. Finding stats, just like in England. Oh, there's more white people commit offences against children in England than there is foreigners. It's the ratio. It's not about that. This is a white country. Of course, there's going to be more people. Of course, there's going to be all these stats that you're bringing out. You know, stop deflecting from what's really happening. You know, because that's all you're doing. That's all people hear. People hear it's the same thing coming from you. You know, the same rhetoric, changing the spotlight from where it's meant to be to, oh, look, all these guys are this, that, and the other. Oh, and the children are right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that Freedom Dad's a bank robber. Nobody cares that Glenn's been done for manslaughter. Can you not see that? Nobody cares. The only thing we care about is the future of our children. And we will, like I say, the people in Northern Ireland are rising up and awakening up. And you need to get on the right side of history. You really do, like, because this deflection of what's really going on in this country onto your personal, whatever it is, vendetta you've got against whatever it is you're doing, you know. But, you know, I do admire to a certain degree because, you know, I will support any woman of domestic violence and domestic abuse, of course, you know. But this isn't a time for that. You know what I mean? I understand that we can't control everybody that comes out on the street and rat, but don't put that with us. Don't label us like that. You know, that's not who I am. But yeah, let's carry on. We're nearly done, guys.
And Mark Sinclair is obviously trying to be the Tommy Robinson of North.
He is indeed, and he was having a wee shout about me outside the McDonald's, where I don't know whether there's just tickets to homage against these people in the McDonald's, and he's having a wee rant about me last week.
Because you haven't shut up about me.
And you know, I must thank him for continuing to interview absolute scumbuckets on his videos. And portray them as the defenders of women and children, because I will admit, Freedom Dad, it is making my job much easier.
Absolutely.
So most people with intelligence will understand what I'm doing, and thank you for thanking me. But this is the facts. If I can bring Glenn Keane onto my platform, the leader of the National Front onto my platform, and have it an honest, open debate about these things, and be frank about it and transparent, then what's going to stop me? If I'm still getting support from my people with all these scumbags that I'm interviewing, how far will I really go? That's what you need to ask yourself. You know, there's a reason behind the madness, you know, and it's clear you don't understand it. But this is the difference between me and you. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what direction I'm going in, and exactly how long it's going to take. Unfortunately, you don't know anything about it, do you? Because you're not on the street where we are in the working class.
I'll just finish this by saying to you, I hope you're ready for the pile-on here now.
Listen, it comes down daily. There's thousands of comments just underneath this one story already. It happens all the time. Then they start, you know, it starts then, the attack then comes, and it's partially against me. Most of it really, really sexual, and a lot of it like promoting violence against me, or saying, I hope this happens to you, your daughters, or all sorts of other things, which is an indication of just what kind of people these are. I don't want you anywhere near me. I certainly don't want you protecting anything to do with me.
And you.
So this is the one thing we're definitely going to agree on. Under no circumstances should anybody be giving you any abuse, without a doubt. You know, it's nothing to do from our side. It's not anybody around me. We're men, real men, and we will never ever abuse a woman in any way at all. And with that, you know, I do not want any abuse under my videos to any woman, no matter who she is and no matter what she does. And I apologize that you get so much hate, and I understand it, but it shouldn't happen. And, you know, I know you've got thick skin. You've been doing this a long time. You're not a victim, you know. You're not the type of person to be a victim. Crime correspondents aren't victims. You know what I mean? You're not going to put yourself out there to be a victim. I don't know what you've been through in the past, but you're a strong woman. But at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't matter how strong you are, there's only so much abuse you can take. And, you know, it's not my place to apologise, but I would like to apologise if anything comes from my side of things. That's not what I intend. Never ever in my life would I want any abuse or any harm to come towards you. You're doing your job. You're not doing it great, but you're trying your best. We'll finish off.
You are the worst kind of female to them because you'll speak up against them and
It's like they're kryptonite, isn't it? They just hate mouthy women, like they really do.
So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I've had, believe it or not, I got in at 3 o'clock last night. Couldn't get to sleep when I got in. Well, I got in, it was a lot been going on. I had 2 hours sleep. We've got a lot going on today that I'm not going to talk about, but you'll find out later on the night. We've also got the demos tonight. Now, I've got no problem with you, Alison Morrison. You're a crime correspondent, and always I'm always going to be on the end of that one way or the other. You know, we don't have any problem with the media. The media have a problem with us. Okay, all we want is the media to be honest. To see the bigger picture. Have a look at England. Go over to Rotherham, Rochdale, Luton, and Leicester, Birmingham. Go down to Dublin. Experience what we're experiencing. Start bringing the truth. Stop attacking the main. You're trying to wake the country to protect the future for our children. England is being replaced. Okay, we are going to be replaced because of our births and deaths. More people are dying than we are having children, and there's a reason. And Freedom Dad can solve that problem. I've got the answers to stop all this happening. But who's going to listen to Freedom Dad when you keep calling me the names that you're calling me? There's nobody else out there with the solutions apart from Freedom Dad right now. And that's why people are listening to me, because I know what's wrong and I know how to fix it. I'm not a politician, don't want to be a politician. I'm trying to bring people up and into the spotlight. I'm wanting to bring our young and our intelligent out, the ones with the squeaky clean records. But it's harder than you think. I don't want to be a leader. I want to have a good life with my daughter. I want to make sure my country's safe. That's it. Maybe it's because I'm a ex-loyalist, Protestant. Maybe it's because of the way my mum brought me up. Maybe it's just because I've become a dad. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to stop fighting for my country. And nothing you say will ever put me down, no matter what you think you might have on me. Nothing will ever stop me, because my community know everything about me, everything, and that's all it's about. The love I get on the streets, the money I get put into my hands over and over again, the hugs I get from people, the amount of time people tell me, please don't stop what you're doing. That's all that matters to me. Them words are a lot louder than your words, Alison. And that's the fact, it. But keep trying, keep pushing, keep doing what you want, keep trying to destroy our country, keep working for the establishment. All you're going to do is put yourself down, not Freedom Dad. God bless everybody.